mics might not be incredibly directional. There might be times where
Yes, that's
you'll want to shift the mic towards you if you want over it.
Okay, I guess we'll get started. Welcome, everyone. This is a really great evening, celebration, for us, as the school district. Really proud of the work. As I look out, in the audience, and see the folks that were integral, in bringing this to fruition. It makes it really, really special. From one of the actual students who went here to our new principal. What a timeline. So that being said, I'd like to call the meeting to order, since we have a quorum of our board. And I will turn the meeting over to our Wilder Building Committee Chair, Peter.
Just make sure that I can be heard. So thank you all for joining us. This is a special occasion, long delayed by COVID, but we're at last here to celebrate this marvelous building. I sometimes think I'm probably not the right person to speak on this because I don't deserve much of the credit for what happened. It really was the rest of the committee working together the way they did, working with Tom, working with the architects. It was a very special kind of group. Sometimes when you're the chair of a committee, you've got to spend an awful lot of time wrangling people and dealing with issues and so forth. None of that happened. This was a group that came together and brought their knowledge and their skill and their experience and their interest to the process. And I am eternally grateful for all of you who participated. And those of you who are here directly, thank you. Those of us who could not join us, my best wishes to you wherever you are, and my thanks to you wherever you are. So with that, I'm going to ask the people who are here, who are recognized, to stand up. Just going in the list, order on the list, Dave Harris, Roseanne, Doug Heavysides, who was really the spark plug of everything. He really brought passion to this. He brought compassion to this.
And food.
And
He brought food to this, including honey.
That's right. And they were brownies.
Not that he was bribing us, but it sure did help.
it certainly did help. And lastly, Tom DeValdi, our superintendent, who was the one who did all of the magic behind the scenes that you never saw. If you were to use drama terms, he was the entire tech crew by himself. He built the sets, he did all the lighting, he did all the sound work, everything to make it happen the way it did. So thank you to you all. So
we have a couple others I want to make sure get recognized tonight. I'm just thrilled that Brittany Bradley's here. Brittany was the architect in training. Now she's a full-fledged architect. So she passed all her tests. There's a whole slew of them. But she really worked with us from MDF Architects in Rutland, worked with us a lot to design everything you're going to see tonight, and pick all the colors, and really just was wonderful to work with. And Ed Clark, the principal who couldn't be here tonight, works with Brittany. And then Mike McLaughlin is here from Red Loaf Construction. JJ couldn't be here tonight, who's one of the vice presidents, but he held our hand through the whole project. Every single nut and bolt I think he knew about. So he was great to work with too. We had a really nice team. And then from the building committee, Derek was the director of special ed in Hanover, Dresden. He couldn't be here tonight. I just heard from Kristen Haney today that she wasn't able to come. And Jessica Paluden is not working for the school district anymore, but she was on the committee and was super helpful.
And there's one other person who should be mentioned, Jim Zazina, who did all of the budget review and oversight and all of the things that made this work. And nothing good that is accomplished really does happen without people coming together to make it happen. And we were fortunate and blessed by the people we had on this project.
I'm going to talk a little bit about process.
Indeed.
I mentioned this because I think the process was really unique, and we spent almost 2 years studying what Harp had over on Palmer Court, and what was here, what RAP had here in the Wilder School, and what their needs were, and studied, every angle we possibly could about this building and the program and the space available, and whether we should look for a different space, consolidate the programs. I mean, I feel like, boy, we just looked at every possible angle there was. We spent almost 2 years, like I said, meeting every other week. Once we decided, how we were going to proceed, the committee developed their own sort of rubric to pick the architect and to pick the construction manager. And that process was so unique that other districts and actually Breadloaf stole that for some of their other projects because of the way we rated all the proposals for architecture, we rated all the proposals for construction management. We interviewed each of the top 3, and we rated them with a rating scale as they came in, and then we deliberated and picked NBF and Breadloaf out of a really nice bunch of proposals. And like I said, that sort of process has been stolen by other school districts and other organizations doing projects like this. So that was really neat. I don't know if Dave or Roisin or Doug, you want to say anything else about the process. Really worked well. So with that said, Kim Marino. Kim is our Director of Special Services for the district, and she has a little special presentation to do tonight. So you want to come up here so people can see you, or at least stand up?
Where do you want me, boss?
I don't know, right here next to your friend Roy.
Perfect, thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Marino. I'm the Director of Special Education and for the Hartford Schools. And I wanted to start by saying thank you to, is this on?
It's just going to the recording.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you to the building committee, first of all, for the tremendous number of hours you put into this project and your recognition of, supporting the work that is happening here through these 2 programs, and the commitment to making sure students with disabilities have the same sort of facilities to show up to school every day that their non-disabled peers do. And certainly this is by far one of the prettiest, most beautiful schools here in Hartford and around the Upper Valley. So thank you very much for your work on that. My timing here was really nice because I came here, this is my 4th year here, and so I really was able to benefit from seeing the transformation of what this building looked like before the renovation. So it's been a real joy for me to be a small part of that. But the reality is none of us would even be here tonight if it were not for the remarkable vision of 2 people who are Hartford residents and educators. And they've, to me, literally shaped the culture of how we work with students with disabilities, not only here in Hartford, but really across the state of Vermont. So I wanted to recognize Joanne Unruh and Ken Kramberg for their, dedicating their entire professional careers to making sure children and their families, are well provided for and have the highest quality of programming. So I wanted to just acknowledge real briefly some of their accomplishments. It's a really brief snapshot. I think we would be here for hours if I talked about everything that these two have done in their careers. But for those of you not familiar with Joanne and Ken, the Hartford Area Regional Collaborative, also known as HARC, was their vision. And they recognized the need for programming for kids with more complex needs. And that was becoming a challenge in smaller schools and wanting to offer the best programming for kids with disabilities. So they joined with other neighboring districts and created this collaborative. And part of that was the autism program that is now housed here and the alternative program. And that's their vision. And it just must be amazing for you to see this building now where we get to educate those kids. So in addition to that, Ken works around the state. He does a lot of work with positive behavioral interventions and support, which is PBIS, which is some of the programming that we have in a few of our schools here. Certainly is happening around the state, and Ken is a big proponent of supporting schools with that. He's a member of the BEST team through the UVM, which again is supporting schools in educational programs and how to work with kids with the most complex needs. Joanne served in this role here in Hartford for 20 years, and it was really under her leadership that Hartford became kind of the envy of all the schools around the state in terms of how we educate children with disabilities, and that was all under her leadership. And then once she retired, she continued to be really active in the community and was president of the Vermont Special Education Council, the Special Ed Administrators Council. She serves on the board of the Special Needs Support Center and is really active at the state level in terms of getting services in laws, in all of the things that we follow in our roles as special ed directors, in making sure kids with special needs get their needs met. So they're kind of like celebrities in the world of special education, so it's really awesome that they're here with us. Certainly for me, professionally and personally, they're two people that I admire, and if I could do anywhere near as much as they did in their careers for kids with disabilities, I will consider myself successful, but they're big shoes to live up to. And so because of your remarkable contributions and dedication to the field and this building and everything that it offers kids, we will be having a plaque upstairs in the lobby that recognizes your dedication and commitment. So thank you so much.
To the Hartford School District. I just want to express my gratefulness to the town of Hartford and the commitment that the town of Hartford has always had around kids with disabilities. I think it's a remarkable district, and that quality about this town is not always recognized throughout the state. We're not in Chittenden County, we're here, in Windsor County, and I'm very proud to have been hired in the first place by Hartford School District, and sort of did an initial interview with John Ohouse in this building, in the basement, when it was more like a dungeon than actually a school building. And I feel so appreciative for the willingness and the dedication of the board to really supporting families with children who had emotional and behavioral issues. That's not true everywhere, and I'm just grateful that the legacy has continued within this community. And I look at the people that I've worked with closely in this district, all of whom, between Tom and Roy and Roisin and Kim, all have carried on with a deep dedication to kids and families. We're very lucky here. Thank you.
that does bring up a point. We ought to mention two other groups that had so much to do with the success. One is the neighbors, who were not only accepting of having the school here, but were enthusiastic about making it happen, and who testified in behalf of it prior to the vote, and who took part in the process, and without whom it wouldn't have happened. And lastly, the taxpayers of this town, who agreed to fund this. And additionally, all of the sending towns, because they actually, whether they want to or not, because the way it works, are funding this as well. So thank you to all of those.
Yeah. Roisin was going to give a little history, just so everyone's aware of what's sort of transpired here over the years. And just briefly, if you don't mind sharing.
Oh, yeah.
She's
yeah.
been
I'm
here the
glad you
whole
said
time,
briefly.
right?
Yeah, yes, I have. Well, not since 1912 when the building was
No,
built.
I've been here since then, not you.
Well, on the paper it says the history of the Wilder School, and the building was built in 1912, but I've only been here since 96. So here I was, 26 years old, living down in Massachusetts, and my husband, who works at the tech center, Mike Viance, we decided that we were going to, explore moving north, and I applied for a special ed position in Hartford at the Hartford Middle School, and I met Joanne Unruh, and had great conversations with her, had a great interview with her. I went over to the middle school, had another interview, and she said, come back after the interview and we'll check in. And we chatted about the interview, and she said, hey, we might talk about a different position if you're interested in hearing about it. And we had Ken join us, and they described this phenomenal idea, because it wasn't a school yet, it wasn't a program yet, this phenomenal idea where there was a marriage of education and counseling in the same building. He described it as one-stop shopping for families, not just kids that are coming here, supporting families and being able to support the people who needed the most support, for students with emotional and behavioral challenges. And it's, each day I strive to, I keep going back to, are we still trying to fulfill that mission? Because the goal for all of our students is to return to their sending schools. And Joanne mentioned it looking like a dungeon. And for a lot of years, from 1996 on till this renovation, it got more and more looking like a dungeon. And I am grateful for the taxpayers and the committee and everybody who worked on this, because this is a showpiece. Because for a long time, the program itself, people would, other SPED directors and things would come for visits, and they'd say to parents, just ignore the building itself. The program is a showpiece. And, that kind of hurt a little bit, that some parents were like, oh, I don't want to have my kid go there, and it looks different, and now it looks the way the program is. The program is a gem, and the building is now a gem. And I'm always so excited to show it off. It's wonderful. It's beyond our wildest dreams. And thank you very much for letting me speak about it.
We are going to do a tour, and we can film it if someone's willing, or if you're willing to log on to the Zoom meeting with your phone, or you can do it with your phone and show what we're seeing as. I don't know who's leading the tour, but I assume it's Roisin or H.
I choose Roisin. I showed up when the building was done. She has the juxtaposition of what it was.
Yeah.
So I'm a newbie. Yeah.
Used to be.
Yes, the used to be's are impressive.
Yeah, I would love the board and the committee to see the plaque in the front entryway that we worked really hard on, and sort of commemorates what we've been through, and getting to here tonight, so I'm really proud of that. And, all the committee members and the school board at the time and the administration are recognized on that. Actually, one person we didn't mention who was instrumental in getting this building completed too was Byron Barrow, who was the director of facilities at the time, and he went to school here, and then he's worked here for 39 years, so he knew like every little nook and cranny and secret to keeping this place moving, going for a lot of years. I mean, he literally found things that Red Loaf didn't believe, and water pumps and sewage pumps and electrical, conduits. He knew where it all was and saved a lot of energy looking for it. So he was pretty important.
Indeed. So I move that we recess the meeting so we can conduct a tour of the lovely building we are now in.
All right, thanks.
You gonna flip it over to
Yeah.
How are you, kid? Still breathing, I see.
Really?
How we do? It's good to see you. I'm doing well.
Hi.
I'm Dave Harris.
Oh, they've already signed it? I'm gonna hold on to him because he's.
Oh, no. Should I stay away from you?
Yeah, no.
No, I meant as a danger to you. not as
Terrible.
a-
Yeah, you're doing the hospital. As they should, VIP.
How are you?
I am looking out, I'm not saying for sure, but thank you for coming to this special
So this room that we're in right now is the multi-purpose room. It doesn't always have furniture in it. We do like indoor recess, small gym classes here when we can't get outside. We do our therapeutic group times in here, and it's a great space. It's very versatile and wonderful. So we're gonna go.
I'll follow you. I've seen it. You've seen it, I haven't, okay, thanks.
I think you may. Okay.
I'll bet.
Of course, they come.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, oh, yeah, I'm seeing myself.
Right, so it's on
But I can hold it like that. Yep, so I can
it's currently on the,
yeah, it's on the inside of you, but I can work with that.
okay. I didn't know that, I didn't know that. Let's see if we can figure out how to.
Hey, you can't not be committed. I know. 2 degrees of separation in Vermont.
So. Oh, hey, David. Okay, so. Much more commercial, so that it passes muster with all the codes and regulations that they have. Really was go well.
Great. All right, moving right along.
A lot of the space down here was very underutilized.
It
So
was
we
too dark
made,
and
to have both programs here, we really had to.
We couldn't use it. Harry Boiler Room.
You should have had some before. Because you wouldn't even believe it.
Wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Ken and Joanne remember, they definitely do, but honestly,
I
the
do
floor
have
was
some before
crumbling and
pictures I can
it was
share.
just awful.
I did see a bunch of
Some places don't put them up on the wall.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of
That's a
great
good
pictures
idea.
that would, yeah.
We have one go-to, like, this is our speech and language office, and yeah, so she does some one-on-one in small groups down here, but also spends some time in the classroom and things. This was what I said about I don't want our, don't put anyone's office in the basement. We'll do shared space because I didn't want it to be basementy. And I mean, look at it.
It was so dark before.
It's just stunning. It's wonderful. Not at all. It doesn't smell basementy. It doesn't look basementy. Yeah.
And the floor.
The floor is even. Wait till we get to the main floor. But the other thing that was really important to us is being able to have storage in, to be able to have closets and things like that, because some of the closets were narrow or they were non-existent, or and so there's a lot of you'll see there's a lot of closet space, because teachers collect things. We have things, and they don't all have to be out in the classroom all the time. We need a space for them. So, all right, in here is our rec and leisure room. Yeah, so we have games accessible for the students, and again, small groups down here, access to computers. This is our library space, so it's sort of a combination. Yeah, and so we have, books out. We have books that we can rotate, so if they're not reading the same books all the time, put fresh ones up, and things like this. The great gathering space. And yeah, it's wonderful. Lots of light. Well, it's funny about these state-of-the-art lights. We looked at a whole, Brittany can attest to that. We looked at a whole bunch of different lighting, and Jessica wanted the dimmable. I wanted, durable and unbreakable. And we got these lights. We were so excited about it, and then we saw that we did so much. So we don't always have the lights on. So it's great because it's so nice and bright. Yeah, it's wonderful. Hello, how are you? Are we ready to head on up?
In the stairwells, pay particular attention to the banisters. I'm very proud of keeping the banisters and refinishing them, and they're absolutely stunning.
And making them to a height that was legal and safe.
Yes. We had to attach,
I remember that.
the real wooden banisters are still here.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't it something? Both sides going up.
Oh. That is fantastic.
We did rebuild the stairs, but they were.
Were they crumbling too?
They were rough, yeah. Like, they were permanent indentations in the middle. Yes, lots of heat blocking on lessons.
Wow.
Isn't that great? So this was all covered up before, when we had first moved in here. And so when they were doing the deconstruction, this was discovered, and they were able to split it, and it's wonderful.
Much of the window covered in the other row too.
Yes. Yeah, the top third windows. Did we find that? I don't know. Okay, this is currently a shared office for me and Mr. Heavysides and Brittany, the coordinator of HARP. We're shifting things around. This will be our primary level class for next year for kindergarten and first grade. So we're moving again. We'll keep that in there. My hedgehog is usually in there, but he's not here today. So where'd he go? Harley the hedgehog. He lives at my house. Oh. When I bring him in. This is his vacation home. So, yeah.
I'm amazed at how they did the drop ceilings while maintaining access to windows. Yeah. Because before you lost that top third or so of the window. It was just, and they were retrofitting with something much smaller than the window.
Exactly.
That was some sort of, what was it, 1970s energy saving fiberglass panel. An aluminum storm.
And
I don't
these
know what
were,
energy they were saving.
I don't know either.
Drafty. Our office was like total wind all the time.
so this building was built at a time when they thought about space and light being important in education. And then we came back and put in rock ceilings and covered up the windows, and he basically turned it into a 1950s jail.
The whole top of the window was covered.
Yeah.
With solid.
So to see it recovered to some of its original splendor is amazing.
So we worked hard to recover, find some pictures of what it used to look like in historical society documents. And, pictures of the windows and the doors. That door that we just went by, that's how the original building had that half moon top. And
We would never have done it.
And the builder to restore that. They had filled it in with brick and it was crumbling, it wasn't supported correctly, so it needed to be repaired anyway, so we repaired it to the way it was.
I like that. I like the color of it. It's not stark like the walls.
Yeah, that's Brittany.
Soft.
So now
This really.
That's Brittany, she is a color hero.
Yes, I did.
They asked me to pick colors and I said, no, talk to her. True story. I wasn't gonna touch it.
Another issue we're gonna need to look
Yes,
for.
so there's you.
The
Yeah,
classrooms
all
were
the hallway
designed to be big,
cameras and
lots of space for lots of students, but that's not what this school needs. So I'm gonna be fascinated to see how we dealt with that issue.
Oh, well, let's move along. We're going to break.
This is one of
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
To use it just to remember what the building was like when it was first built. So you're gonna see these throughout. The committee was really, what that was important to them to use, all that old slate. It's about a half an inch thick. Yeah. Very heavy. So they catch right on that and clean for the open house. And these little rooms, these are all sort of, I don't know what you call, what's the proper name now?
Quiet rooms?
Quiet
rooms, safe rooms.
Yeah. But where kids can go and, recoup and get their thoughts together to re-enter a program.
Do you rent them out on the weekends?
Yeah.
I can come over here.
Yeah.
Okay, good money. So this is our nurse's office. So for a very long time, our nurse shared our space in the director's office or shared it with Patty. And so to have a dedicated nurse's office, again, wonderful. It's great. Yep. So she has a private space there. Oh, she has a nurse's office bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It's wonderful and great. So starting from here, you'll see the doors. The entryway is lovely.
I'll wait till everybody gets in.
Yes.
Tell the story about the door.
doors, the inner doors are the original doors to the building. We found those one day rummaging around in the basement with the building yard. We had them refurbished, and there they are. They're gorgeous. And the front, the actual outer door sort of emulates what was here originally. So again, we studied the original pictures of the building and tried to replicate that. And you'll see the plaque.
Do you want people to?
You want to peek and see the plaque that was made to honor the school board. That's the push the block forward.
Why don't you pull the door forward just for the moment? There's the
Whoops.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
All right, this is where our lovely secretary Patty sits. Patty has also been here since 1996, so there you go, geez, the originals.
Sorry.
You want to tell any story about how we ended up with this thing? Yeah. This was Brittany's creation.
I drew a spear on the drawing. I got picking up and red love. I said, what the heck is this supposed to be? But we kind of used it to create some ambient light. And then all of these circles in here are acoustical panels. So when you have a lot of people in here and they're talking, they're supposed to absorb the sound. So it's kind of a fun element to give it some interest, but it also has a functional purpose.
So one of the issues with the old school being as dilapidated as it was, run down, basically at the end of its life, the building, was it really gave the impression to the students that we didn't care.
That's right.
I think this has changed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, when we came for a visit, we brought the students hard hats and everything and checked, we came a couple of times, but we came right before we were going to move in. So it was right before Christmas vacation, and we're doing the tour with one of the groups, and one of the middle schoolers pulls me over and he's like, we're showing them. This building is so fancy. We have the fanciest building in all of Hartford. I'm like, yeah, we do. And it was just so exciting it's not us saying, hey, now you have a fancy building. It was him, just really, they're very, very proud of it that we have the fanciest school in Hartford. So it is, it's really important. It gives an important message to them that they do matter. Okay, we're gonna move down here. So you'll notice differences between how we designed this floor versus upstairs, because this is where the HARP classrooms are. So we have smaller groups working with students here. So you'll notice we still have a elevation here. So these classrooms are smaller. The hallways are narrower, things the way things are configured. So this is the size of one of the HARP classrooms. I know, isn't it wonderful? It's great. Yeah, we also we were invited to test out different furniture. All of our staff was invited to be able to do it. So the ones that we settled on were just like, yes, because these chairs are so versatile and they're so, yeah, it's been really, really neat, the whole experience, and durable carpet and all of this. I mean, I'm sure Ken remembers replacing carpet in the past. A lot.
More of the original slates, because it really was going to be thrown away. It wasn't much of a use for it, but we wanted to make some sort of, commemorative use of the original slate from all the chalkboards that were taken down. We also, you know, replaced all the, what do we call these? Transom. Because that was a unique feature to the original building when it all closed.
These don't open close.
No.
Do let the light through.
They what?
Do let the light through.
That's right, that's important.
Okay. Do we want to see each classroom? Or
No, we
is
can
that
just-
a good example?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
All
good.
right, perfect. You can come down here.
They're all set.
That used to be Ken's office. And my classroom was there, right? Well, that was the first thing when we came in to see. I walked in the front door and I gasped. I said, "Where's my classroom door? How am I gonna get into my classroom?" I've got number and it's fine. So the classrooms used to be, it is, well, if you look, the classrooms were so big that we were able to separate it into 3 really nicely sized spaces. Yes.
So. Everything.
And we have some new doors and we feature some older doors as well to keep some of the historical pieces.
Storage, I'm sorry, in fact, you're talking, are you
Yeah,
talking?
no, that's okay.
I was just gonna say, I love that everything is put away, right? So it's visually so much more calming than having to store everything out in the open like before.
Exactly.
It's really nice.
We need another bookshelf to store this. We need it, it's like everything can have a space. Yeah, it's wonderful.
This is what we always needed, right? Ken, remember the room?
Crazy.
Yeah.
So
we were pointing out that some of the doors are, we kept some of the older doors. You'll see in here. The built-in over here that we were able to preserve. I saw this room. You did see this room. It's true. You remember it. It's true. I said, oh no, you can't lose that. Yeah. It is, exactly. Isn't that great? Yes. Aren't they? They're great. Yes. Coralie and I tested out like, can you sit over and can you? They're great. You sit over. You can sit on the back of it. But yeah, holds up to 300 pounds. You can turn them around and sit this way, so you still have a space. You can, yeah. It's if you wanted to turn it around and use it as just a prop for standing. They're wonderful. Yes. And we did learn that they can tip backward, but it takes an awful lot of effort and something to balance on. Okay, so we'll just keep them away from
There are boundaries in the world.
There are, exactly.
this room is a good example of one of the original cabinets that we tried to save whatever woodwork or cabinetry that was in good shape. So that is one of them, and it's beautiful. You'll see a few throughout.
It's part of
It was, yeah. Yeah, and there was a door there to Ken's office. Yeah. Beside that. It was blocked out by a file cabinet. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. It's the door that you can see, the window you can see into Ken's office. I know, it's like, what was here before? Great, we are going to
Talk a little bit at some point about the or maybe not.
He has.
I can give it a shot. It's more JJ's territory.
Yes. Yeah, it makes such a difference. And the way we designed these classrooms is in each of these of the RAP regional alternative programs. In the RAP classrooms, we added a small space within the classroom for students to take a break, so they perhaps might not have to choose to go to a quiet room or a safe space. We can do some, small, quiet chats. We can do some one-on-one work. We can, and so on this side of the building, the side we call it the side room. The side rooms are slightly smaller, and on the front side of the building, they're larger. But each classroom has a side room so that we can do, some of the individual work within the classroom space and not having to leave. Yes. Yes, so in each classroom, we have a space similar to this with a rocking chair or coffee spot that we call a regulate space, so that it's not, I need to take a break, I gotta leave. So we have the regulate space, we have the side room, because we want the belonging. I belong in the classroom, I don't have to act out and so, yeah, so we try to think of all of those things.
All these lights available?
All of them, yes. Yeah. And as I had mentioned, across the hall, the side rooms are larger. So so we can do small groups in here, game times, a couple kids working on a project. I think so too. Like, give me a good closet. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful. Yes. Yes.
So what class is that?
Well, it was Ralph and Katie's middle school class, but we're moving again. We're just moving all the time. So we're moving down the hall. So this will be Angie's. So Angie, our reading specialist, will have her office in here. Right now it's the bonus classroom, it's the extra classroom. Yeah. All right. So we shall move.
Brittany, do you want to talk about the heat and the air conditioning a little bit while we're in here?
Most of the building, most of the time, is heat and cooled with these heat pumps, which you see in every single room. There's backup boiler system, but for the most part, this takes care of probably 85% of the heat and all of the cooling. And we also have an air exchange system that regulates fresh air intake and filters the air every, I want to say 40 minutes.
This is probably the most state-of-the-art building we have, for sure. Super
Can you run
energy
them
efficient.
individually, or is it all the same system?
No, they're all individually controlled in each room. And there's actually, it is air conditioned, but it's dehumidified so that it doesn't really need a lot of air conditioning or power to the air conditioning. So very, very energy efficient. And very safe. With COVID, a lot of concerns were coming up about air circulation.
Thinking of that.
And this building is being built at that time. So we were able to really keep the kids safer, and the kids here are a little bit more sensitive to that. So we were pretty thrilled. Yeah. All right.
These areas will go to there's some condensers outside.
There are condensers on the roof.
On the roof?
And there are a couple on the left side of the building, but most of them are. All right.
And what, you have like 4 heads that go to one or something?
More or less, some of them cool larger rooms, so we have 2 to 1 condenser, but for the most part, it's 4 to a condenser.
The other thing we did that we didn't mention, I think we're gonna go the other way, but we added on this entire elevator shaft. And that was very tricky because we're trying to match the style of the building, but complement it not. You know, you could talk a little bit about that, and the principal architect was really concerned that it go well with the rest of the building.
Because when you work on a historic building like this, you don't want to make anyone think that this was original, but you want it to look nice. So our goal was to make it look a little modern, which you see from the front with the glass, but to match the brick and the water table, so it all kind of blends into the building. So it's not perfectly obvious that it's an addition, but obvious enough.
One of the nicest things about this building is the brickwork outside. So it has those beautiful cornerstones and the water table and a lot of really nice brickwork. Like if you go out and look at this wall, you can see a pattern, like a symmetrical rectangular pattern. And it's pretty unique. And that's how they did things back in 1912. They really knew how to do
So they kept
brickwork.
the original brick and then.
All of the brick is original, and it was just repointed and washed and cleaned. And occasionally, you know, if we had a brick that was falling out, we'd replace it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, all
All the
original.
steps were replaced.
Yes, the steps were replaced.
Yeah. You know that stuff.
And the outside is done.
Yeah.
All right.
All righty. So as I had mentioned earlier about having the clinical services also happen at school, we have a couple of counseling offices. So this is one little space in here. So it's a perfect size for some counseling and things like that. Yes. Oh, yeah, yeah. Isn't that great? Yeah.
Nice space. And I do like the branch. Like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that is just sit all the way back. It sinks you right in. I sit all the way back. My feet are out. I work like that for you.
Durable, easy to clean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a matching one on the other side for our two counselors. We are also, we will be adding a clinical director, which we did not have here. Yeah, so this is a teacher workspace for up here. We have the counseling office. In here. Nancy, you're gonna yeah, it is. It's wonderful. Yeah. So this is another counseling office. Yeah.
But did I miss it? Do you have a teacher's respite room?
Down in the basement.
Yes, down in the, yeah.
It was next to the
Yeah.
cafeteria.
Okay.
Yeah, well, right next to us is it's a teacher workspace, but we have a coffee maker and a fridge and things like that. So we do work. There's printers and things in there. So over here, we used it as an office space. We used it as my office, but I moved out. But so this is what we call our reset room. So this is another safety net, so to speak. So we have our regulate space, we have our side room. So this, students teachers may suggest a reset, or kids can ask for a reset. So there's a menu outside the door. Kid stops there, takes off their shoes, selects what they are going to do. We set the timer for 5 minutes, and we have so they might try the crash pad. We have fidgets, we have puzzles, we have deep pressure suits, we have weighted blankets, we have all of those to be able to, again, reset to return to the classroom. So we try and, they're in here with a staff person, timer's going, it beeps, they return to the classroom.
On their own?
With the staff person.
With the staff person.
Yeah, they're always with a staff person. Yeah. So the kid just access. That's okay.
One of the other things you'll notice that we did when we renovated was we put a whole new envelope inside the building, so that, see how the windowsills are so wide?
Yes.
One of the problems here was it was just brick, and then it was no insulation, so it was very cold. So we rebuilt the whole inside of the building, so that's why it's so thick.
Yeah,
If you want to talk.
we added about 12 inches to the entire perimeter and super insulated the building. So we kept a gap for drainage in the brick, but we created this whole plane for hyper insulation, which we obviously can't do on the outside because you want to see the brick. So we had to do it on the inside. And the entire building, basement to 3rd floor, has that new envelope.
That's amazing.
So we really barely ever use the burn. I don't think it's been on.
It's definitely, it's a very energy efficient building.
Okay. So this was one of the original doors in the building, and if you when you see it's a door that goes to nowhere. But we just kept it. There's no room on the other side, but it's fun. The kids all like try and make guesses as to what it might actually be.
I remember it.
I know.
That is good water.
Yeah.
Door to nowhere.
The door to nowhere. It's true. And then we have a matching setup to the other end. We have this classroom with the smaller side room, and then across the hall. Well, we have a special educator in each of the classrooms, and also a classroom-based counselor who has a mental health degree and background, and we have a professional. So we also have a school counselor, a mental health clinician, and it's really cool. Yes. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions that Brittany can answer?
Oh, I'm coming.
I don't know if everyone heard about the building envelope. We had a really, besides preserving and historic items in the building, we worked really hard to make it energy efficient. We did build an envelope throughout the whole building so that it's really tight, it's really well insulated, super insulated. And you guys did such a nice job with that. And then outside, we cleaned and repointed all the bricks and fixed any broken bricks so that everything's sort of original outside. It's really unique outside if you get a chance to look at it. There's a lot of different, like, I don't know if it's geodesic brickwork that they did back in 1912. That's really interesting.
And the HVAC system, with the air filtration and the ultraviolet light, kill germs and all of that, which turned out to be pretty pressing.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were way ahead of our time.
We were.
Anything else you can think of that we should mention?
We talked about the lights. Yeah,
Yeah, we did.
that was pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were very complicated when we first started to get them running correctly, but we did it.
What is that made of? Is that glass?
It's not. It's fiberglass, and there's no actual panel on the bottom. It's just a textured prism. It's actually called a prism light, and then it's lit from the bottom, so it's all ambient light. And
It doesn't hurt your eyes.
Right.
Yeah, oh, that's neat. Wow. And it doesn't do that.
Not at all. It's true.
Another good way to describe it.
You could be a fluorescent light.
As I said before, you can totally adjust the spectrum. So it becomes hotter or colder every you want.
Outside, we had to make use of every inch of the property, so we do have a playground that's actually in the parking lot. It's been delivered, and we're gonna have that installed this summer. And there's about half basketball court, and it's much safer. We have a bus lane for buses only, and parking because we have a lot of staff. So the parking does take up a big chunk of the backyard. Yeah, get a chance to look outside, it's really nice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maybe we need to get back to our regularly scheduled program.
If you can find your way.
Thank you. Probably.
I know how to get it. They gave me a key.
You'll take me in.
Yeah, it's a perfect time of day.
Yeah. It's great. So we get on out. Really fun. So pretty.
Tell us about it.
No, there's so much. And, you know, we come on that because there's things that you're just like, oh my gosh, did I, or how did I miss that? I remember the video and you just think, I want to see that again. Yes, you certainly can. Absolutely. We've canceled COVID. We've had that many times.
You know.
Oh, yeah, I know about it.
This is the nice thing.
I love this. I've got holes in my wall in my basement. I'm gonna get some of these open. The next time the granddaughters go down there. Oh, I tell you, she just, I couldn't get over. She had that whole audience just, and they were laughing at the right times. They were just making the jokes and.
Great.
She had no.
Thank you for perfect timing. I've been around here for so many years.
And you'll-
So basically, we're just leaving.
Yeah.
This is the first one I've ever used. So we're essentially using.
We're capturing the Zoom
Just this though.
image, yeah.
And then, we're considering the catalyst and the.
Yeah, I don't think there's gonna be anyone calling in that needs to be promoted. If they do,
Any public comment that kind of stuff?
if there was, I think,
It's exactly the same as.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And sound should come out there. Ooh, yeah, I think you're all good. Oh, your phone, thank you so much for letting us use it.
No worries.
Yeah.
We're just double checking on attendees, so I just texted and said they weren't getting in.
You weren't getting in?
Should be open meeting, right?
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't have been here to promote them to a panelist.
No, they weren't trying to do that, they were just trying to attend the meeting.
Tell them to, you can tell them to log off and turn it log back on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, what all has to go back to?
If you want to give me a call when it's over, I can swing back, because I'm going to need a bunch of it tomorrow, so I may as well throw it in my van.
Okay, and then, that, graduation shoot on Saturday. Christian.
Yeah.
Doug.
It starts at 9.
Okay.
So, should I pick up the equipment tonight?
I'll have to think about how to. Okay, because we'll have to use a lot of that tomorrow. So I'll get a package ready for you overnight.
Alright, I'll just come really early.
Yeah, you'll probably, what's unfortunate is you'll probably have to go to the front desk of the hotel to get someone to let you in, because the door will probably be locked, but. Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it.
Upstairs, and I hit the doorbell, and he came right to the door, and I was like, oh my gosh.
I was planning on taking two cams. There's a 2-camera shoot, and then I'm gonna tap into our audio.
Okay. Yeah, we could probably.
Nobody, there isn't there wasn't a lot of specifics on how we're gonna do it.
Okay, I can probably set
And we're not broadcasting anything, it's just recording it.
okay, that makes it way easier. Okay, so then,
That's what Samantha told me. As far as I know, we're just recording it, and I'm gonna edit it the next day.
okay, then how about I'll go and I'll try and actually get those cameras ready for you tonight, because that'll be good.
It doesn't make really any difference. I mean, if I come, I don't know, 7 a.m. and I pick it up,
yeah,
that's fine.
Okay, yeah, I think we'll be using them tomorrow.
I just need enough the audio versatility to be able to tap into their equipment.
I think I'll give you a bunch of XLR cables and even a direct in box like this in case they're sending you like a 1/4 inch. So you should be all set, and then it'll just be plugging into one of the cameras.
Okay, so then as soon as this meeting's over, you're gonna come back and grab this?
Yeah, just give me a call and I'll come back.
Okay.
All right. And you'll hear the audio's not that. These wireless things are not great, I found. But so you'll hear kind of this like clicking noise. And then if anyone's doing public comment, this mic is what they've been using. But you have to come up here on the bottom one, change this to internal instead of external.
You mean external rather than internal?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so right now it's getting the built-in mic, and you'll just switch it down, and then you'll be able to hear people loud and clear on this thing. And this sounds great. All right, I'm gonna hit the road. Good luck. I'll see you in a little bit.
Right. Nobody is showing up on the.
So comically, that's the human being. She was talking about the door being.
I was talking about the actual door.
Oh, we're talking about her?
Yes. It was the door, not the virtual log.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You want to sign Kathy? The water will run. You want to sign Kathy?
So you go like.
No, that's what I'm.
And this one.
How did the girls do, do you know?
How long, when do you start, you're gonna actually start the meeting?
That's a great question.
We're going to start at 3, item 3, 6 o'clock.
Can we have his
You want an agenda?
Okay, do I have like 3 minutes? I can run some something and come back?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
All right. I'll be
We're
right back.
waiting for Harvard.
Yeah. Something that simple. But that, you never know what you're gonna be.
You're gonna encounter, yeah.
And what.
My father, as a principal, had many stories like that.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, growing up in Norwich, we lived down the road from a family like that.
Thank you for doing that.
See, that's the reality.
Yeah,
I drove for South Royalton, so their borders are like Beaver Meadow. You know, so like some of the kids going to Sharon School.
Yep.
You know, would be on Beaver Meadow. It was educational. And you got to meet a lot of the kids and all that. But I'll tell you, he goes, whoa.
Yeah, 'cause that's where I grew up. I grew up off Beaver Meadow in Norwich.
Yeah.
They won. He doesn't remember what though.
So, Peter, which
Conza, they won.
school
But he doesn't
did
remember the
she
school.
decide again?
So yeah.
Right.
Brandeis.
Brandeis, okay.
My daughter is going to Brandeis.
In sunny Waltham, Massachusetts. Know it well, and Castilla is going to Bentley too. She's a,
Hi.
she'll be a quadruple Falcon.
Is that all right, Harvard?
Yes, it's all
I
right.
gave you your own
What was the
table.
choice?
Well,
Whatever
we
it
can
is,
move
it's
around a
fine.
little.
It's good.
We thought Olivia was coming, so we made a little.
No, you were told that she didn't have to.
Yeah. She's
So she took you out at your word, and she is, when I left the house, had been on the phone with her friends for.
Good for her, I'm glad.
That's right.
She deserves it.
That's right.
She earned her break.
All right.
Ah, sorry.
Shall we resume? Or are we waiting for anybody further?
Does anybody know what the password is? Sir? You know that password?
Tom, do you know what the password is here?
The password here should be. Isn't it whatever password you use for your?
Yeah, we would need that's not,
Yeah, for your school stuff, right?
yeah.
Doesn't think?
You need a school email address to access the Wi-Fi. Unless we made a pre-existing account before we started.
There's a guest link, but
Yeah,
Yeah, the problem is I
it
have
doesn't
to
have
do
like a
that ahead of
universal,
time.
yeah.
I'll see, do you need one for the meeting?
yeah.
Yeah.
Can you work off of my hotspot?
Jeez.
Yeah, and I can get one, I just.
It's, you know what, it's okay, I'll just, work off the computer.
Well, I can.
Cause I can get
hotspot
one,
on
I
my
can
phone,
get
and
one
that's
made.
okay.
I can actually work off the hotspot on my phone. So
Okay.
Sorry about that.
that's okay.
There was a time when I knew how to do it, but I used it so infrequently that I forgot.
No, it should get,
But. Alright.
So, wanna go ahead and get, rolling?
Yeah. We've got Jake waiting on the line too, so.
Okay, great. So I guess we will, resume the school board meeting of June 8th to order, for regular regular business following the Wilder School open house and celebration. So we'll get started with changes, additions, and approval of the agenda. I know there's a couple of things that always come up this time of year that don't make the.
Yeah, if we could add, food service, renewal, the annual food service renewal. That's fairly new. We used to sign a contract and it would, be for multi-year, but the state won't allow that anymore, so every year we renew the food service contract. So Jake's is online waiting to talk about that. And then we also have a balance at the tech center that he wants to, talk about, fund balance. And, I forgot to put the Ottaquechee, patio.
Yeah.
The follow-up that the board asked me to do. I think that's it.
Move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended, to include the food service, annual contract renewal, the HACPC, fund balance review, and the OQS, follow-up discussion. So unless there's any other, amendments, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So that brings us to the global ends reporting, section 1, policy EP. Review of district ends. You have the floor.
Thanks. So for the last one, I thought it'd be fitting to focus on the overall mission and the universal end. And when you look at the universal end, the goal is students will graduate from Hartford School District equipped with a diverse set of knowledge and skills achieved through a combination of classroom-based, hands-on, and peer-to-peer learning that will provide them with a foundation to excel in future endeavors. And so what I wanted to do was focus on the varied experiences that just this spring, if you walked on to the high school campus, you would see not just our seniors, but knowing that 9 through 12 have these types of experiences available to them, and really a chance for kids to utilize what they're passionate about to build learning and opportunities. So you have your AP and dual enrollment courses. We've been lucky having Olivia and Sydney on the board. They've been filling us in on both the musical and the music band choir activities and the AP and dual enrollment opportunities, because they've been taking full advantage of those. But also there are more in-class advanced options for students now, so that it's not always I signed up for an advanced class because I think I'm good at this class. It's now, I'm taking a US history class, and you know what, I'm thriving here, and now I can take extended options within that course to get an advanced credit after the fact. So just really providing kids more and more avenues to see where they can be successful and where they can really thrive. We had a student take advantage of early college this year, went to Norwich University for her senior year of high school, and actually got to start there. Exhibition night, you folks know that's a soft spot of mine, but they celebrated internships, work experiences, student-created projects. They had more students take advantage of the opportunity to share class experiences. So classes that didn't necessarily have exhibition as a requirement, but they still wanted to share something that they did in their coursework with the community, which is, I think that'll really start to grow. The One Act Play was this spring. And lastly, athletics. We can think of athletics as a standalone, but you can also think of all the learning that takes place in those. And as we move forward and we really talk about revisiting the ends and how do students gather evidence to show proficiency in them, I think a lot of students would look at the experiences they've had with their teams as ways that they really do meet those expectations. And when you put all that together, it really is it's meeting the mission of providing and ensuring a dynamic learning community. So just as the kids walk across the stage, you just know that this spring, those were some of the experiences they took part in. So thanks for your time.
May I make a comment, Coach? Sure. Thank you, Roy. That was a great report, and it shows what we're doing, and we're doing a lot. But again, I'm going to come back to where I think we need to be. We need to be able to show indicators that we're being successful in doing all that. And I'm going to stay on this topic.
Absolutely.
I'm not pointing at you. I mean, it's our ultimate responsibility to make sure this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in keeping with that theme, because it's been ongoing, and I know that you and Kathy were directed by Tom over a pretty good period of time to look at those indicators, and I do understand they are there. The interesting thing is we haven't had that review, okay, at the board level. We know they exist because you guys have been working on them, and you guys are really good, and we appreciate the work you've done, so we know they're done. We just haven't seen them.
Absolutely.
But also that visual piece, because it's important, and especially when we look at that our opportunity to share either through community engagement, to let the community members know that piece. Now that's that other. I think, does that kind of...
Yeah, I mean, as the person with generally the dubious honor of presenting the budget, I think it will be really important if we can put forth some of these indicators and statistics or whatever we're using to measure them, because that way people understand what a great value they're getting for their tax dollar.
Exactly. Well said. Let's keep that in the mix, because maybe we could talk about it during the retreat too.
Yeah.
As far as we're working on the work calendar and the work plan, for the upcoming year, it'd be a perfect time to say, okay, we can start rolling it out, in these pieces. The first one might be, blah, 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 community engagement, and then we can do micros during the board meeting. It could show itself in a number of different ways. But
Yeah, I think that is a focus for the retreat.
Yeah.
Just to review their indicators.
Cool. But thanks for the work, because I know, we know it's there because, you guys have been cooking on it for a while. So, let's see. The next order of business is communication and support to the board. So, we don't have a student report. They didn't submit for this meeting.
We had a lovely last meeting with Olivia and Nelson, where they got to close up, and she talked a little bit more about her capstone with Nelson, and it was, she did some really nice, I mean, her and Sydney, but I really worked a lot with Olivia, so she really did a great job as a senior member of the board, so.
She did a great job last night too at the 8th grade graduation. She was their guest speaker, and she had that, you were there?
No.
No? Okay, it was good. I saw you shaking it.
I was there.
Yeah, she had the audience just in her hands.
It was a perfect message.
Oh, it was a great one.
To
She
send
did a
to
really
her.
good job.
Did a good job.
If I remember correctly, she spoke as an 8th grader, so she spoke at that graduation twice. Is she gonna come back as the resident alumnus?
You never know.
It might be a record.
So those are outcomes, the end results. you know, they're the bigger visible, you know, ones. So, you know, we need to talk about how we can, you know, show, I'll just give an example very quickly. Amber Burke. Does that name ring a bell?
Why does that name ring a bell to me, Coach?
She graduated in 14, I think. But she also just graduated from VLS, Vermont Law School. She was the committee assistant to the Judiciary Committee, our committee, the House Committee. And now she has her first law position. She passed the bar. She hasn't gotten sworn in yet, but she passed the bar and she's working for Vermont Legal Aid.
Very nice.
So that's another Hartford alum story, okay? You know, and then as we think about, you know, I can't help but running into our alums all over the place, and that's another. But, you know, we need to be able to talk about all of our kids, you know, one that's working on becoming a, you know, ranger, you know, there's kids in the military, there's kids all over the place doing really cool things for them, and that was the expectation, to get every one of our kids to the best they can be. But and
as proud as I am of my daughter, and I am quite proud of her, we want to be able to brag on all our kids.
you got it,
Absolutely,
you got it,
absolutely.
for sure. So Tom, you have the floor.
Yeah, just some quick notes. The students finished today, so seems like everybody had a good day. You know, I noticed the middle school students were outside all day having a field day, and they just played so nicely and cooperatively. It was great. And things went along without a hitch, so that was great. And I think overall this year, despite COVID, we had a pretty successful year. And I think we were safer than most, and probably not as safe as some would have liked, and probably too safe for some others. But when I talk to my my colleagues around the state, I know we did well, and I don't think people hear that. So I say that because I know our numbers were lower, and I know our schools were open consistently. We have very few closures, so little teeny ones here and there, but just with the collaborative programs. So we did well, and I'm proud of that. We had a nice retirement celebration last Wednesday that's co-hosted by the AGA and the school board. Honored a lot of folks, had a tremendous amount of retirees come back. I said alumnus, but retirees come back, and the cafeteria was full. It was threatening rain, so we were inside. It was really nice celebration. And Nancy were there. And we honored a lot of people for a lot of years, especially for my office. 5. So that was great. Awards night was this past Sunday, and although it was a little bit long, it was really nice to see how the community turns out to support the kids. I mean, I don't know, I haven't added up how much money, but it's got to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And a lot of kids did really well. It just made us really proud. Last night was the middle school graduation. The high school gym was packed again. It was supposed to be outside, but rain was threatening. So we had to go inside, but it was full house. And the speeches were spectacular. Olivia did one, but the middle school student who did one did a wonderful job. And so the teachers have one more day tomorrow. They sort of have the contracted day to clean up their rooms and get everything together so that they can go off and enjoy their summer. That's really it. So, hard year, but I don't know if it was better than, it started harder than we thought it was going to be, but we ended up powering through it and doing okay. If it's all right with the board, maybe we should let Jacob, he's probably
Yes.
hanging on.
Yeah, I was
for
gonna,
30
I was
minutes
gonna
or
say,
more.
because any of the other, you know, updates that, you have, we could, because I think it'd probably be important to, share a couple of the other, you know, things that we talked about a little bit. But let's review the two things with Jake, you know, the food service contract and the fund balance.
Sure. Can you let Jacob Vizina?
He's in. Jacob, can you, let's make sure we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Cool. All right, so Tom uploaded the renewal into the folder for tonight. We're looking at a 6.6% increase on the contract overall, which is below the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index of 6.8%. So we're looking at an estimated total of $443,346.80 as the total contract price for FY23.
Jacob, can I ask a question?
Sure.
How does that compare to what you've put in the budget?
Next year we budgeted, I think, about $750,000, and that also includes supporting White River's program as well.
Okay.
So in other words, we're in decent shape.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's not much we're gonna do about it. Because there's nobody else really, as I understand it.
Right. Okay.
Do we need a motion to?
Unless there's any other questions from the board, we'll entertain a motion to accept.
I do have a question.
Yes. Go.
There's been a lot of talk about the state doing free lunches for everybody. Did that happen? I wasn't tracking it.
It passed, and it was 30 million, you know, to cover the expense for all of that.
Does that have
And
any?
the governor signed it.
Does that have any effect on us in terms of funding or increased expectations, or how does that play out at the local level?
Jake, have you discussed that at VASBO? Because I haven't received a lot of details on that yet.
I was gonna say, I haven't heard much communication come through regarding that, but we have a meeting on Friday, so I'm sure that'll be discussed.
Okay.
It's been extremely quiet.
So
I don't know what the impact is.
So
I'm
maybe
assuming it'll have a positive impact.
Right. So I guess, Jacob, once you have the statewide meeting and the VASBO for folks, the Vermont Association of School Business Officers, so they meet regularly, needless to say, because money drives all of this. So that being said, Jacob, if you don't mind, once you get the current status, if you can give us a brief update, you know, at our next meeting, that would be great.
Will do.
Thank you. So, having no more information to digest, I'd like to move that we approve the signing of the new school food budget contract.
Have a second.
So we have a motion and a second to accept the new food service agreement, renewal agreement. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Jacob, the HACT fund balance?
Okay, so the last report I ran as of yesterday, it's looking like we're gonna be about $350,000 to the good. Obviously, we have some encumbrances that are outstanding, so, pending going to the end of June. I would recommend that the board, similar to last year, authorize up to 900,000 to set aside for the best room renovation.
So we had already, voted on that.
But I think we need to vote on it each
No,
year.
no, right,
Yeah.
right, but I mean, the process has been
Yeah.
started, as far as there's a continuum, and we have to, actually, anytime, it's an annual occurrence, and you're right, from a budget perspective.
Yeah, we wanna make sure that the fund balance goes towards the best room rather
Right.
than be returned to all
Right,
sending
right.
schools.
Well, that's why it has to be done
So,
on an
yeah,
annual basis.
that's why it comes up at this time
Yeah,
of year.
yeah.
But by doing that, we're helping reduce the cost to these other schools in the future. So it's not like we're taking the money just for our district,
Right,
it's for all districts.
right.
Because it's an accumulated cost, and even in our structure, our students are charged the same rate that a sending school student is charged. So the per capita cost is equal, across the board, so.
So the number was 900,000 for it to be set aside?
Jake?
What's that?
How much do you recommend that we set aside?
I would say up to 900,000, just to be safe.
And Jacob, just for clarity, the reason you came up with that is we expect the best room cost to be approximately 1.8, then you're saying?
I think that was the updated figure, yeah.
Okay, so so there is logic to your recommendation in that regard.
Right.
Okay, so I would move that we authorize the superintendent to set aside any surplus funds up to the amount of $900,000 for the best room project.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second, to, reserve up to $900,000 for, the best room project out of this year's, fund balance. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you.
Jacob.
And good luck on Friday.
Thanks.
Those are always fun. Okay,
Calendar.
so OQS. No, those were add-ons,
Yeah, no, the 2022, 23 calendar. Somehow miraculously again, I made a mistake. That was called to my attention about next year's calendar, even though we had been through it 16 different ways. Yeah, it's a really hard process, because there's so much going on that one sheet of paper. I try to do a lot. But when we were reviewing something, we realized that we didn't have enough staff days. So there was 175 school days, student days, and only 185 staff days. So we missed one professional development day, and I think it was because of the way that we had done the formatting, added 2 days at the end for staff, which I think the staff would have probably revolted on me, and you would have had to look for a new superintendent if I tried to have 2 days on the end of the year. That's all we could tell from our review, so I went back and I added it where it used to be, in October, and adjusted the end of the year, so now I believe it is 100% correct, but it's a good thing we caught it, because that would have been a large problem. I think that was the only kerfluffle. So we still get out in the same school week in June. It is a week later, because we started a week later, but we have a teacher day on October 11th now, instead of a student day. So everything got pushed back. That's it with that.
May I ask a question? Did you intend, I just noticed, and I literally just noticed this, voting day in November, is that a school day? And is that a mistake?
No, we have a voting day, the 8th or the 9th, whichever that Tuesday is.
Yeah, that,
in November.
That is a school day.
That is a,
Yeah.
do we usually close the high
No,
school for that?
no,
We don't do
no,
it.
no.
We haven't been, oh,
We haven't been, but it has come up as a question, especially in the years the president
Yeah.
is elected. It's very,
Yeah.
very busy.
Yeah.
In a regular year, really, it impacts parking a little, but we just make the kids park out by Walla, and we make do for day. It's not that huge a turnout, but on a
Right.
president's election, it is.
And they lose the use of the gym for the
Right,
day too.
they
but-
lose the use of the gym. Yeah, but it's hard to make, have a no school for the rest of the district. So it's one of those.
Yeah, I don't think it's really that much of an inconvenience.
no, I just wasn't sure if we had it
Yeah.
last year,
No,
and I was like,
it's a
oh,
good, I'm
did
glad
we
you
miss it?
mentioned it, because we have sometimes had, at least a professional development on that day, so.
I wasn't sure.
I move that we approve the amended
Amended.
2022-23 school year calendar.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the 22-23 school year calendar as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. The draft work plan?
Yeah, the draft work plan, I just literally did this just for your discussion purposes. I took last year's work and put it on next year's calendar. And again, it's totally, I'm not trying to overstep my bounds, but just facilitate your work. So anything can move, anything that can be added, but this is sort of what we've been doing the last few years. And again, you don't have to do that tonight, it could be at the retreat or sometime next year, but, again, I was just trying to get you thinking about the work ahead of you.
I have a question about that. May I?
Sure.
So every year it seems like we're given the same,
Report?
the same thing to do, and is that,
Oh, that's.
is that
So
done
you do the
intentionally?
same-
I mean,
no,
you're just reviewing the
that's-
same one and you've got to revise it.
Maybe you should
and
mix
it's
it
the
up.
thing.
Right. Maybe you should either mix them up so different people are doing different
Well, I think,
policies.
I
or-
think that my thought would be, this could be a very, small part of our retreat. Is finalizing, that and taking into account the consideration, of, having that discussion, and seeing who might be interested in looking at a different, EL policy, because, one of the things within the structure, is, looking at the executive limitations. So we know what those are, and, so that's, that's pretty pro forma,
Some work.
Yeah, that's Tom's work.
And then the,
They do change though, and
Yeah,
every
yeah.
year gonna update
Yeah.
or personnel change or.
in timing, timing of the year, it doesn't mean just because, let's say, one might have a number of EL10, that it's the last number you look at, you know? It's possible that because of a particular calendar connection, you might wanna do it at a certain point in the year. You know, kind of as a celebration of what's going on at that time of year. You know, so there's any number of things we could talk about, you know, during the retreat to even align that part.
I was just thinking, because I've had the same too, ever since I came on the board. It would be, yeah, we all have. So I'm thinking, well, maybe it's time for somebody else to get their eyes on that instead of my.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I bounced in the past, I've bounced around among most of them.
Yeah.
And I certainly have no great need to be revisiting the same subject
Well,
over and
that's
over again.
me.
So, I mean, maybe we can even just decide it here and now. If somebody specifically wants to keep their report, let Tom know, otherwise, you pick them out of a hat, and Tom give it, and sign it that way. I mean, I'm not sure we need a huge discussion.
No, that's not, you know, that's why I say the
We can standardize it, just standardize it, bump down every year.
Yeah.
Just move the question.
The item, the column that I do want you to pay particular attention to is that linkage meeting column, because that is what we did this year. That can change considerably. I know that every year there's some concerns around the ends reporting. I think there was some discussion about moving that up. So it'd be nice to know that before we get going in the year, because then it gets lost. We get busy and we can't change, but the DEI work too, you know, that's what you did this year. I just put it on next year's calendar. Again, nothing needs to be decided tonight, but we certainly can settle it up for August.
I think the linkage point is a very good one, and that, as I understand it, would be part of our summer retreat discussion.
Right.
But to the policy monitoring, I think we can just get her done.
I'll just move everybody down to
Well,
two.
However,
there's also the issue that, Coach has been doing 4, I believe, these reports. And I've been doing 3, and some of the other people have been doing 2 of them, looking at it. Maybe we want to just sort of
even it up.
Spread the wealth?
Spread the wealth a little bit.
Shucks, you caught me.
I mean,
As long as it's not
I
February.
don't mind doing them, but it, you know, it should,
Yeah.
people should have the opportunity to bring their opinions to the subject matter, is all I'm saying. Because quite frankly, I've found them enough that it's not a difficulty.
I mean, I'm willing to do one more, just to even the load. That's only fair. I've avoided it this long.
Nice, thank you.
So,
That's all that was for, get us thinking.
so there's an arrow on the linkages for the retreat.
Quite proud of myself for remembering the next item.
It would be embarrassing otherwise.
It would be.
Hey guys, I thought I offered you a job, but I don't have that authority, so.
We reconvene the board and who knows where they are. So every summer, the board has granted me permission, it's kind of a common practice around the state. When the board is in regular session to allow me to have the authority to actually finalize hires of professional staff.
And in reality, absent a statutory requirement, this should be a given.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I would move that we authorize Tom to hire during the summer.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to authorize the superintendent to hire over the summer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you. I put this on here just to make sure I was clear on what, Roy and Julie and I are trying to plan for the 7th. I guessed at a date, that's when we traditionally have done, the 17th. Just before school starts. And from what I understand, we were talking about, the ends, sort of, well, a review of the ends and then a review of the indicators and sort of, whether or not you wanna tweak any or sort of open the conversation with the community about changes or updates to the ends and specifically how we measure what we currently have. So it's a lot, it's a big topic.
And one of the cool things is having the linkage, area of the work plan open. We can use that time for any of the engagement pieces that we choose, you know, around that work. You know, so we've got some open spots to deal with, to do that.
The only comment I have is, I do not believe that conflicts with my taking my daughter off to college, but it may. If it does, I apologize in advance. I don't think it does, but I'm bad enough for dates that could be off a couple of days when I think it is.
At least you thought of that potential conflict. Somebody else at this table didn't. No names.
You know, I noticed that a certain board member was blushing.
Yeah.
Everybody starts a little different, but it's usually closer to the end of the month.
I think it's not until like the 21st or something, so it should be okay, but I would never swear on anything having to do dates without having a calendar to check against and my wife to ask if I'm right.
So am I missing anything on what the board's desire is for that?
I think that.
I mean, I think we're focusing on the ends, the linkage, and the reporting.
Yeah.
That's the topics.
That nails it. Brings it home.
Yeah, and I think it's perfect that we do the board calendar because at the end of that, because it might be affected by.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That's the deal.
All right. Great. And I just left a spot for any sort of dangling chads around committee work.
So I guess, you know, we've got, the building, and maintenance group that's been meeting.
Yeah. Russ, you wanna comment?
Russ,
on-
wanna-
Sure. I mean, we're having another meeting tomorrow. We're sort of narrowing in on prioritizing projects, coming up with a matrix for a recommendation to the full board. I think that's the substance of what we discussed.
Cool.
Any questions or anything?
Cool.
Yeah. Well, the work's going really well. I'm pretty excited about it.
And that was the goal. You know, it's always nice when you kind of
Get
on
organized.
target with your goals. So that's cool. I guess a question to our H-Corey team, how things are going.
So for H Corey, just wanna put a plug out there for Juneteenth coming up. I believe the flyers have already been sent out. Have they been sent to the board? I can do that.
I don't think, not specifically to the board, no.
Let's get that out. Tom, do you have the posters yet?
I don't have it.
I can do that.
Send it to me,
I
I'll
can send
send
to you, and I would ask that you just help us distribute that
Yep.
information. Looks like it's gonna be a really good day, we have some good speakers, I believe it starts at 3, although again, I'm like Peter with dates, times, I'd have to double check, triple check. But I think we're starting at 3. We are gonna try to have a few things specifically for, kids and families, not just adults. And so we'll just need some help to get the word out and make sure that people know about it and can come help us celebrate.
Cool.
I'm curious if maybe Roy or anybody else in the room has some feedback about our international day that we did at school. I wasn't able to attend that day.
Yeah, I wasn't either because I had COVID.
Oh, sorry, Tom, I didn't know that.
But I heard it went really well, and there was over 100 people in attendance. Maggie was thrilled with the turnout. I know Coach spent a lot of time there. I know Royce talked, but.
How come we didn't get a notice saying that you had to report that there was a case of COVID with superintendent?
Like the entire superintendent's office, it went boom, 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 right? Kathy's out this week, sorry to say. Roy, what else did you learn from Maggie? Anything that I'm missing? Just she was thrilled. She was really thrilled with the day. She was really happy with the turnout. Everybody was well behaved. It really was a good day.
You know, there were, it was a nice coming together. The music was incredible. Our guests were incredible. The food was off the chart.
Nice.
I mean, you know, very.
Lots and lots of donated food, I understand.
Right. Thai food, African food, American food, you know, food and food. A live reggae band, professional band played with the assistance of of some school family relationship, you know, in that. The stylist, the hairstylist, were braiding hair. The People's Barber from Hanover was cutting hair. Actually, the trim.
I heard
came
that.
from that. So it was a good it was a good day had, you know, for Hartford, and you know, really a good coming together, you know, for the community. Yeah.
I'm gratified to hear that. I would have attended, but unfortunately, other obligations.
So, let's see, policy, Peter?
Nothing to report at all. That involves me getting together with Tom and Roy, and it's been the wrong time of year to have those conversations.
Yeah.
We have a couple with policies in the queue.
Yes.
The library book.
Yes.
Policy, a couple other things.
Right.
So I'm assuming this summer we'll get together and finish those.
I'm looking forward to having that opportunity.
Russ, you and I are trying to put together a time slot for the finance committee. A couple of the specifics we talked about.
Yeah, oh yeah, I mean, we're just going, because what we're gonna try to do is present to the full board some projections as what the future might look like in terms of budgets, tax rates, that type of thing. Yeah, I think that was the substance of it. And we'll make that happen, given Coach maybe have a more relaxed schedule now, because I certainly do.
Yeah, no, that would be helpful. A lot of changes going on right now.
And
a lot of positives, but we're worried about what happens when those positive things sort of.
And they're already beginning to in terms of the real estate market and interest rates and that kind of thing.
The grant funding
and so looking at where the most recent, you know, legislation that has occurred from the statewide side regarding the yields, and then some of the changes to the funding system itself are also going to have an effect on that. So to be able to have those projections, I made sure to get, you know, as soon as the governor had signed, you know, those, you know, I got copies to Russ and to Jacob, you know, so that, you know, on the active chart that we use when we're putting the tax chart together, you can actually manipulate continue that discussion. And
I
just,
have a couple of things
yes.
from Hartford Community, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
You were on
I was down there on that list somewhere. So the block party again is June the 15th, which is a Wednesday, starts at 5, ends at 8. We'll have bands, we'll have food, we'll have all the fun stuff, and encourage everybody to come. And also the summer program. So I had a before graduation meeting with our executive director, Emily, and so we were supposed to be starting next week. We're not going to be able to start until probably the 20th. Evidently, some of the state people have thrown a wrench into the process that we never had to deal with before. So it's the 20th is going to be the absolute earliest we're going to be able to get started. And if you would like to volunteer, you can come and volunteer for a couple of hours every morning over at the high school and help us get all the lunches and stuff ready. Or if you just want to swing by at about 11:30 every day or every other day or once a week, I don't care. You can certainly come by and make deliveries to the libraries and stuff where we drop off the food. That's not a very hard thing to do, but it's muchly needed.
Well, I can imagine with the price of gas, that's.
Yes, it
Yeah,
really
well,
is. That's one of the problems too.
That's one of
Yes.
the concerns.
Yeah, exactly.
Excuse me, Nancy.
We've got a big grant that just came through, so for us, it's a big grant. So we're really happy about that. Russell is going to keep us online. He's going to keep us in the black, right?
Yeah, somehow
Not in
I
the
keep
red.
back, everyone just wants me to be a treasurer. I have no idea why. Not my stellar personality.
We're very excited to have him. We're getting we've asked a couple of more of the other local residents in Hartford to come and join us on our board. And so as soon as they say yes, I'll make that announcement as to who says yes.
Cool.
Then we can hassle the ones that say no. No.
And
I'm excited about it.
as a person who has been volunteered to deliver those lunches on certain days, I can tell you it is a rewarding
It
experience.
is. It very much is. Yes. And I mean, there people are standing there waiting to get this food. So we still have a big need in our community for that. That's all I've got for that.
I have a question, Nancy,
Yes.
can I ask? In previous years, this program has given lunches directly to Ventures program. And I'm wondering, my spidey senses picked up because you said you're at the high school, which is a new location, right, instead of at the.
Yeah, we were at
River
high
School.
school last year.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, since Ventures is back, I believe, at the high school
they are.
also.
Yes.
The middle school.
Will
That's
that,
part of the kerfuffle from the state government.
oh,
So we will be able to do some things. But Ventures is one of the ones that we're having a problem.
that's a bummer. It was really, I know the kids really appreciated
Yes, I know
that
they
in
did.
previous years, that they could
Yes.
have free lunches
Right.
during Ventures. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's part of that, yep. So, but we're gonna do it.
All right.
We just might have to pull a few more strings to get it all done. But we are bound and determined that we're gonna keep this program going and we're gonna do it, and it's,
Ventures is gonna run out of the middle school, in the
Yeah.
part of that building.
Yeah.
And, the pool is gonna be open.
It's gonna be open.
Yeah, it looks really great.
Looks terrific.
Yeah.
It's over there today.
and part of this summer program is, when the pool was open, when we first started it way back then, is that we had, if you were there and it was your family, or if it was just some kids there and they needed a lunch, all they had to do was come and ask for one and we would give it to them. So we're gonna continue with that now that the pool is gonna be open.
Perfect. It makes a big difference. A lot of the kids,
Of course it
I
does.
mean, the pool and Ventures serves a lot of working
Yes,
families,
it does.
predominantly working families in Hartford.
Yes, it does.
And, you know, it's just good to know that kids have food when they
Yes.
need it.
Yeah.
Well, they will have it again.
I love that.
But see, it's, you know, that difficulty right now is the nexus between, you know, the fee, you know, for ventures,
Mhm.
you know, being a fee at all versus a free program. You know, if it was a free program, the whole feeding and lunch piece would be no question.
Right.
See, there's the kerfuffle again,
Yeah.
that word. It's a Scottish word that means kind of a twisted mess.
Good way to describe it.
But anyway,
Thanks for that.
But we will get there.
I just thought I'd share. You know, that teacher part of me just kind of goes there every once in a while. Let's see. Probably, since we're talking about, you know, reports and updates, Tom, you wanna talk a little bit about your reaching out to the Haven?
Sure. I did meet with Michael Redmond, the executive director of the Haven, to talk about the concerns around safety and the expansion. Had a nice chat, and what we, make a long story short, what we committed to was, he has a new staff person, I think it's a social worker who actually is gonna be keeping track of their clients. And she is gonna, I'm meeting with her next week, but she's gonna join our district safety team so that we have a connection on a regular basis with someone responsible for safety basically at the Haven on the team. And our district safety team includes the HPD, HFD, you know, and administrators from each building. And it's a pretty good group. Director of facilities, director of technology, director of nursing. So we'll meet regularly, and then he and I will meet quarterly just to make sure everything's going well, and if there's issues, a conduit to sort of discuss them and make sure that they're getting addressed. So it was good, a good start.
And just for the community, this is a direct response to some of the questions around our safety committee that came up on the January 26th meeting. That was really well attended by our community members and the folks involved in the new project, you know, as well. So I'm glad to hear that Tom was able to put together that update on the safety committee. And just one other thing of note, just for history's sake, our safety committee came into being the evening of Sandy Hook. Remember when you and I were standing in your office at the, you know, and it was something that's what stirred it. But since then, one of the, you know, a lot of positive outcomes in the sense of the relationship with all of those service providers that are part of that team with the school district. And it's become a true partnership. So adding another team member, you know, to that group is really critical and important.
Yeah, her name is Sherry Sullivan. She's a new social worker for the Haven. That's gonna be, you know, working with all the clients, making sure they are where they're supposed to be.
One thing I would like is, at least quarterly, but of course, subject to your judgment, a report back on the follow-through and the issues that have been may have been encountered, so the board stays abreast of what's going on, and we can address it early if there's a problem.
Or trend. Right, if there's a trend that we're noticing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Point well taken. But, you know, I thought that it was important for the community to understand this isn't just something that, you know, came into being, you know, a couple of weeks ago or something to that effect, you know. And
Unfortunately, there's other aspects of safety that we're all need to be cognizant of.
right, and that's part of the reason why it's been a valuable asset, you know, to our community. So thanks for pulling that together.
Thank you.
And so OQS follow-up we can do under this governance piece?
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. Thank you for not forgetting that. The OQS patio, I've talked with, or actually Amelia Donahue, talked with, Joanne Els, and, there is no permitting that's required for that. It's absolutely fine with them. She's also secured the funding for all the patio stones and the crushed stone. So, I think we're in really good shape with that. She's contacted the fire marshal, Tom Peltier. She hasn't heard back, about the fire ring, but she doesn't think that's gonna be, a problem, neither does Jonathan Garthwaite, the director of facilities, but obviously we won't do the fire ring if we don't get the, permission from the fire marshal. It'll just be a, you know, an empty space or some sort of, part of the patio and not the fire ring that's gonna go on top.
So that will be used for what age groups?
All age
Even
groups at
pre-K?
LQS, yeah, even pre-K. But, yeah, I mean, the pre-K wouldn't be out there with the fire.
Well, no, that was my question. You
Yeah.
might want to check with licensing. I don't think they're.
No, they wouldn't, yeah, and that is not meant to be the focus of
Right.
that's an occasional use for
Right, I
some special
understand, yeah, I
event.
just know.
But, again, it won't says it's not okay.
And I guess Nancy's point's well taken, you know, too, because in order to complete the full circle, being that we have a licensed pre-K program, you know, in the facility, it's well worth, you know, having that blessing, so to speak, from the folks.
Can't you see licensing walking in? All these.
Yeah,
little
we
girls
heard.
around with this fire.
We heard, you know,
Yeah, there is a big difference between pre-K and K.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Just brings kind of a shudders to it. But anyways,
Thank you for remembering that.
so we're good there. So that brings us to public comments. Public.
Yay! I'm such a big.
She is waiting so patiently.
No, it's interesting. I like it. I'm glad to be here. So my name's.
Hang on.
Oh.
It's
Sorry.
not,
Recording.
it's not to amplify,
If
it's
you don't.
for the,
Do I have to do anything to it?
Just
This just adds a whole other layer of stress to this.
Well, you don't have to use it, but no one's gonna hear you.
I'm telling you, you could put me in a room full of 100 kids, and I'm fine, but you give me some grown-ups. So I meant to print this out, but I was at the staff party, and I did not. So I'm reading it from my phone, I apologize. So I'm Nicole Velu, I'm the president of the Hartford Education Association. I work at Dothenbrook. Right now I'm a K2 interventionist, and honestly, when you hear this quote, living your best life, like I'm living my best life right now. These kids just make me laugh and smile every day. So since this is the last board meeting of the school year, it's the last day of school, I wanted to share some things that have come to my attention, and Tom and I have talked about a lot. And I think, you know, Tom and I talk about how, you know, Tom's always saying, people can come to me and talk to me about these. I think the difference is I'm not their boss. And so there's no fear, and not like you're fearful or at all. But especially if you're support staff, it's really intimidating to talk to Mr. DeWalsey. He's in a different building. You know, like, it's just different. So I hear from a lot of different people. And I wanted to thank you for listening to us at the beginning of the school year, and
for making some changes that we needed to have happen to survive the rest of the year. And I wanted to come and make the statement, and I'll share the document with you after so you can look at it again, in hopes of rallying your support again. We're kind of in a precarious situation right now, and I don't want to be a doomsday person, but we're experiencing a mass exodus right now. We have a lot of teachers who are leaving, and like normal years, we lose a lot to what we like to call Hartford North, otherwise known as Marion Cross or Norwich. And the numbers keep growing, but now we've actually lost some people to Rivendell, and things based on salary and working conditions, climate, things like that. So this past year, we had jobs that we didn't fill, and we're expecting more unfilled positions in the fall, and we're gonna start next school year. We will start next school year being understaffed. And which in turn is gonna put more pressure on our teachers and our support staff, and we're already spread pretty thin, and more people are gonna burn out and more people are going to leave. So I'm urging you now to make some important decisions and to authorize Mr. DeWalsey to make them. And I think the nature of this year is like no other I've seen in 24 years. I think you'll probably agree with that. And so the first thing I think we need to do is make a plan for what is going to happen when we don't fill these positions. I think special education is probably highest on my list. We've had special educators who have said they have been called by other school districts and said, we want you to come work for us. And that is frightening to me. And the way our contract is written, we have cases that have set precedent that more money constitutes professional advancement. And so a lot of people are being released from contract due to that. People are tight in terms of there's no slack. There's no slack left. We've picked up the slack. And if this year has taught us anything, it's that overworked and stressed out people get sick more and they take more days off. Sometimes even just a mental health day, which I don't want people to come to school when they're not feeling well, but some people could muscle through it and come in, but I do think people got sick more. And you also have the ability to help fill positions by increasing the hourly rate for our support staff, especially. So there's this ongoing sort of debate about, are you a group 1 support staff or are you group 2? And group 1 is what I would say was formerly known as your general ed support staff member. You would sit in a kindergarten, first grade classroom and just help the teacher be an assistant. The days of that job are long gone. Those are not the types of support staff members we have anymore. The starting pay for group 1 is $15.25 an hour, and to compare, McDonald's is currently offering $18 an hour for night work and $16 an hour for day work. Our own maintenance department is offering $16 an hour for summer work. And the kind of work that our support staff members are doing, and Doug Hussey has put it nicely in a labor management meeting that we had, a labor management committee. He said, we're asking them to do professional level work for low level pay. And I would actually add calling it fast food level pay at this point. They are often dealing with our most traumatized kids. They're helping a kid come out of a classroom and re-regulate. And it has an emotional toll, it has a physical toll. And I'm urging you to do something immediately, like get rid of the group 1 rate and just make everyone group 2. Or increase their rate and don't wait for negotiations for that to happen for next year. We have a support staff member who's brand new to us this year. She's right out of high school, and she was a little green when we first got her, a little worried about how she was gonna do. And she's one of our best, hardest working people, and she got her contract. She says, I can't work for this. And she resigned today. And she is so good. and she deserves and works with some of our most difficult kids. Today she got spit on and bit, if that's any indication of what she does. And happy to do that, happy to do it. Perfect. So I'm just urging you to make some of those immediate changes or authorize Mr. DeBalzi to do it. And then make a plan for what's gonna happen when we don't fill those other positions, like special ed. So the AOE has also outlined ways of retaining staff. And I just wanted to share some examples with you. And I get lots of emails about this all the time, and I've talked to Tom about it. Northeast Supervisory has given each teacher and support staff member 3 additional days next year, whether they call them personal or mental health days. St. Johnsbury School District gave $2,000 to each full-time employee. Some districts are now using hiring bonuses in conjunction with retention bonuses because they didn't want to make their staff that was remaining angry. And another one provided an extra paycheck to each support staff person. And knowing that we're not going to have enough staff to fill all these open positions, I'm urging you to compensate people for picking up the slack. So in a recent survey that we sent out prior to us negotiating our memorandum, 78% of staff said they covered in some way for absent people. So an example is when you have 11 staff members out and you have 3 subs, you have to. People gave up lunch breaks. People had double the amount of kids in a class or in related arts so that other teachers could get a prep or a break. And in other cases, multiple classes were put in the library with 1 substitute. And in another case that I heard about, they divided up a class and put them in 3 different social studies classes in the back. So you weren't even learning what your subject was. You were just sort of doing your own work in the back in a holding tank kind of situation. And I'm worried if this continues that more staff is going to get burned out and leave. So, okay, these keep resetting on me here. You also have the ability to make a policy about workplace safety. So Mr. DeBalzi and I have talked a lot about ways where he can be brought up to speed about the violence and aggression that's happening with little kids and middle school kids and high school kids. We try to the form didn't work. Every school has their own sort of reporting process for it. And our principals are so spread thin that they have a hard time following up with it as well. But even as low as pre-K, the violence and aggression towards staff and students is rising. People have been bitten, they've been kicked, slapped, spit on, they've had broken bones, and students and other staff members have been injured. And we would really like for you to create a policy where there's a set of rules and procedures to follow when something like that happens. And the reason is this: our principal's job is to form relationships with parents and relationships with kids. And sometimes those tough decisions are really hard to make if you have a good, close relationship with parents and kids. And if it's just written in policy, it will be followed. And it's not like, well, you know, it's really tough family, it's really tough situation, because there are things that need to happen for recovery and for planning, but we're urging you to create that kind of a policy. Just like we asked in the beginning of last school year, we just need time to plan for things. We're still doing EL education, and that's not changing. We're still kind of starting from scratch because we took a break, some of us, and now we're focusing on different things. So nothing has changed, and the need is still there, and it's probably even greater because in addition to planning curriculum, we're planning for meetings for behavior and meetings with team members, and it's always like solving a million little crises. And it would feel nice to be proactive rather than reactive. I will say that we're on a great path for EL education. The staff has come a long way. I think the beginning of the school year was rough, And that added a layer that was tough, but we've really done a lot of education this year about why it's important. And Lucy Calkins, who is a famous reading teacher, going back on some gospel that she 100% stood by for so long, she just recently went back on and added some phonics into her instruction. And so that was huge. That was a huge shift. And that sort of helped a few more people get on board with what we're doing. And again, just, you know, keep talking to us. Come in, see what's happening. I think, you know, we would love to see you in our buildings. We'd love to see any of you. And sometimes I think you'll be happy, and sometimes I think you'll go, what's going on? But, so I just wanted, and anytime you want me to come and talk about something, I'm happy to come and chime in. But thank you for listening.
Nicole?
Yeah.
So I agree with you 100% on all of this. I see it and have friends that are teachers or, but one of the things that when you were talking about the workplace safety policy.
Yeah.
And I understand why we need that, but I would think that it would be, the first thing I thought of when you were saying this is because we need to protect the children and the teachers. But then the first thing I thought of was, but these kids are acting up because they're still in trauma from, and if some of these kids, let's see what, if they're going into first grade this coming fall, that means they've not had a normal school experience at all. Because they started school during the pandemic, and that's all they've known. And so then my concern is should we not be trying to get more help for these kids, mental health type issues? Am I thinking on the same, I mean, is that correct thinking? It's correct thinking to me, but
I think so.
That's the way I think.
I think it's twofold. I think oftentimes if something violent happens in the classroom, the teacher and the kids need some time. And what's currently happening is we don't have the bodies available to process the behavior. So the person in our building, for example, that we have, whose really job is that, she's been scooped up by other jobs because there's not the personnel for that. And what ends up happening is we're always being reactive. So if she were available to do that, you know, I mean, I guess like a sort of a policy would be you'd have to have a reentry plan, you'd have to have a meeting with the parents. I feel like what gets lost in a lot of this is we don't have enough meetings with parents. And oftentimes I don't even know that the parents are aware all the time of the violence that's happening. But I do think bringing the parents in is important. It just can't happen right now. So I think, and then in addition to that, I think there's that mental health piece, you know, that's playing into it as well. But, and then the re-entry plan for what happens and the sort of, we call it fix-it work that happens. We just don't have the bodies for it. And especially this year where bodies were covering for other bodies and, you know, yeah, it was rough.
I have a question about that too, actually. It sounds to me, I'm curious in particular about what kind of policies governing which aspect of the workplace safety around student-based, student-initiated violence you're looking for. Are you looking for a policy that would dictate protections for the teacher, protections for the number of staff in the build, all of it? You're looking for the whole thing?
I think, I mean, it would be great to know, and I want you to know my goal is never to have kids leave school. But let's say a student has physically assaulted another student and has shown that he or she can't be in control. That automatically triggers a one-to-one support staff situation, at least temporarily, until a plan can be made. And that person then becomes sort of the first, I mean, that would be my ultimate wish, because that person would be the first line of sort of support for that student, so that getting back into the classroom as possible. But right now, it's the classroom teacher. And the classroom teacher can't have all eyes on a student and also have all eyes on watching for this sort of escalation of behavior. And we just have so many kids coming in with these types of sort of dysregulated behaviors that there aren't enough people to do that. Luckily, we've had, you know, toward the end of the year where the behaviors have escalated as kids are preparing to stay home, which may not be a happy, safe place.
Right.
We've seen lots of aggressive behaviors, but we have lots of wonderful college kids who have come home and to fill that role. So we were lucky in that regard, but that doesn't happen for us throughout the school year, so.
Yeah, staying home is not, as far as I'm concerned, unless I won't even say, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, it would have to be a life or death situation for us to make it okay to make a student go home. When we don't know what that situation already
Yeah.
is there.
Right,
And
exactly.
where they are standing,
Right.
and I just, to me, I don't think it is okay. I don't think it's safe for the child. It's not safe for anybody else who's in that home if he, no matter, and especially a younger child, because now you've got a parent that's gotta take off work and stay home. Okay, now the parent's mad because they're staying home, and the kids climbing the walls because they're upset about something, and it's just like
Right.
all the time. And that is not safe for our kids.
Right.
And yet, what do?
I know. And I think it's a mixed bag of things. I think it's gonna be different for every kid, but at least if we had a set of procedures, like if a child, I don't know, bites someone or physically punches another child, like, you know, we're gonna talk to, at least have a phone conversation
Right.
with the parents and say, you know, this happened, but what's happening right now is there are so many dysregulated kids, and I mean, I'm speaking about the little kids, I can't even imagine what it's looking like in the older grades. It's fallen on the principals a lot, which, yes, it's their job, but it's also their job to supervise staff and to get into people's classrooms and make instructional recommendations and things like that. And so we're missing out on that because most of the time is spent on behavior. So, I mean, we miss having those types of conversations because of always feeling like we're being reactive. Yeah.
So, Nicole?
Yes.
Thank you. You know, as you know, procedurally, you know, we have a process,
Yeah.
you know, to address public comment. And it doesn't matter where it's coming from or what the topic is. And part of that is to ensure that an answer gets accomplished. Okay. So that being said, and I'm sharing this not only with you, but with the community as well. The board will not make a decision on this issue tonight, because that is how we, you know, function. But we can recommend that the administration, being Tom and his team, you know, speak with you to come up with a plan for how we will react. This is not the last board meeting of, it might be for you guys, but it isn't for us. We still have one more meeting left. And then for the rest of us, you know, between our committee work and what have you, you know, we're not done yet. So that being said, you know, all of the points are well taken. And you noticed I didn't really say a whole bunch about it because I've been in every one of those seats. Okay, at one point in my career. But anyways, giving the utmost respect to Tom, think that as proactive as we are around our work as educators in this district, and as important a topic as this is, we can rest assured that the recommendations made back to the board will get us across the finish line. I'll just put it that way. And I'm not, speaking out of school on that. Just, when you've got tenure, we've all worked, with this team for a number of cycles, let's say. And so it isn't just hyperbole, so.
Yeah. And I would also just add that Mr. Ribaldi's been great. He and I think he probably hears from me more than he wants to. Hey now. But I have to say to him all the time, like the tone of my emails, I hope it doesn't come across as blunt. I just like write it out and there it is. But if there's a really serious issue, he's always really quick to handle it right away. And we're going to be working with Carrie Bristow, who is Ottaquiche Spanish teacher, to go over the MOU. And I know a lot of our members, our teachers are really curious where you're going to fall on the vaccine mandate. And, just kind of looking forward to getting that done sort of early in the summer.
But as far as that direct response, piece.
Yeah.
Part of the reason that we've been as effective as we've been as a district, and with Tom's leadership, and being, part of the board that hired Tom, is the skill that he brings to this seat is one of the best special educators, because we worked together at that level back in the day, so, geez, that's scary. But anyways, that being said too, that's part of the skill set that comes into this, and I think that's why, it works. So I think, to kind of cut to the chase, the procedural things that can be done are within his purview anyways, by design of our governance structure. So, and he knows that, and Robbie and the rest of the team. So, those pieces, are clear. If it does get to a policy piece, then that's something that we would have to, work through. But a lot of this is more procedural, and those are easily, addressed. Just so, I saw our colleague taking copious notes.
A lot of notes.
I will send you the letter.
Yeah, I've been aware of all of this.
Yeah.
You don't have to go too far to know that this is a national trend.
Right.
And then, it's all a big vicious circle. There's a shortage of all staff. Teachers are leaving in droves. Support staff, you can't find enough, and you can't pay them enough. All the related services and the contracted services, everybody is short. And we've averted a lot of disasters, but it's difficult, more difficult than ever. Kids' behaviors is definitely off from the pandemic. Certainly deteriorated. Staff are more stressed, so, yeah.
And actually, that was the topic in this month's CAPM.
Yeah. A lot of people are already working on this, so that's the only thing, I don't disagree with anything that's been said, it's just a lot of people are working hard on this. We've added a lot of staff. We've used the ESSA grant to add lots of mental health clinicians, lots of support, but when we can find it.
And see, that's, and that was the part of what a series of not only the articles, in CAPM, this month we're talking about, but the research that's being done, at the academic level, across the country around trying to help us as educators needs to happen to change the paradigm,
Mhm.
you know, so that's the other piece to the puzzle, you know.
Yeah, I think the most important topic of this whole statement that I made is our support staff. We could not function without them. And to even think that we're gonna have open positions, like, scares me to a level, you know, we count on them. And some of them are so good, and we just need to keep them. And, you know, whereas a regular year, I think we'd wait till negotiations, I just don't think we can.
Yeah, because negotiations are in the fall.
Yeah.
Right.
23,
Yeah.
24, yeah. So-
Right.
But again, you know, I think that, you know, in these times, you know, we know what falls, you know, within, you know, the scope, you know, of the superintendent's office, you know, versus our purview. I mean, it's all under our purview, but at the end of the day, you know, we disaggregate it so that it can move forward, you know, without having to have the wheels of process get in the way, you know, so.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And you made it through,
I
you made
did,
it
but
through your most
I don't know,
difficult.
here, take that. I just get all watchy with that thing. Oh my
Yeah, I know, I
gosh,
see
I'm
it.
sorry. Have a good
You
evening,
don't
thanks
do
for
good
listening.
in front of the camera.
Life 360.
Oh!
3
Take
minutes
care,
ago.
Nicole.
Life.
So, point well taken.
While we were chatting, I just, since it's connected to the OQS thing, I did just get an email update that the outdoor patio and outdoor wood burning fire appliance is approved by the Hartford Fire Department at the Arctic School.
Cool. So we had just one little
As
hurdle.
licensing says,
Right.
okay, then you can
Right.
really pick it up, I mean, the pre-K kids out.
Yeah. So
I know
that,
you can have pre-K kids there, but I just wanted you to know that.
Yeah,
We were
yeah.
just talking about that.
so,
When I saw that they had put, Leo's picture on the front of their,
Oh, newsletter?
do they have like a, what we call a yearbook, but it's, you know, it's not
Yeah,
really
right.
a yearbook, but it's for them. Yeah, and his pictures on the front and some of the
Nice.
drawings that the kids did.
I haven't
For
seen
Leo,
that.
yeah,
cool. It's a special place.
yes.
All of our schools, you know, bring out that feature of special. So that brings us to the consent agenda.
All right, in addition to the minutes, I have a few appointments. Amy Fowler, DBS Phys Ed, Amy DiMatteo, English language learners, that's in our office, will be serving the district. Sarah Moody, a new Spanish teacher at the middle school. Sarah Hardy, a new science teacher at the middle school. Nicholas Laritzin, Dothan Brook pre-K teacher, and Jennifer Gubbins, kindergarten at Artaquiche. We are finding people.
So for, the person for your office,
That's ELL, English,
Yeah.
Used to be ESL, but a second ESL teacher, ELL teacher.
but in your.
Well, she'll be based, she's district.
Yeah, district-wide.
Yeah, district-wide. Elementary mostly.
Yeah.
Most of the services are at the
Yeah.
elementary level. But we're pretty fortunate, we have one full-time person already, and we're lucky to find one. Most people can't find.
And just a quick question, and this is a general, finance committee related piece. So the distribution of the weights and the new weighting system, has that put us in a reasonable position financially?
As far as we can tell, yes. It's been a positive effect for us.
You know, for the, especially for that,
Yeah.
that group of students, you know.
We're one of the benefactors of the new weighting system. Whether that will last, That's what everyone's concerned about, but right now, for the foreseeable future.
Cause it goes to 2025, I think.
Yeah.
You know, is the timeline, yeah. Cool.
There are winners and losers, and we're a winner right now. So,
Cool. And meeting evaluation.
I think at the last meeting, I volunteered to be the permanent steward of this.
Whoa.
Be-
Well, at least to do it then, I wasn't sure it was being.
Wait, we have something else?
No, we,
no, you didn't.
Nancy just,
Approved, oh, yeah,
to
okay.
approve the consent agenda. It was like,
Yep.
you know, we all
Boom.
agreed with it, bang, we're done with that.
Moved right on, right over it.
All right, well, I second it.
Well, are there any appointments, resignations, or anything like that?
I gave you the appointments, no resignations or retirement.
Thank
Okay.
goodness.
All right. Move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
So we have a motion and multiple seconds to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Now,
Okay, and I'm willing to do this at any meeting unless somebody wants to step forward, so we don't have that awkward moment.
oh, okay.
It's all addressed.
I figured as much.
We just bow to you and thank you.
At the end of each board meeting, each board member and the superintendent or reporting appointed evaluator for the meeting completes this form. The responses are shared and a discussion is held on any areas that need improvement. The chair collects the completed forms to use in the board's monitoring process. Board was prepared for the meeting, satisfactory. Board's time was spent on ends, not means, satisfactory. Each board member was given an opportunity to participate, satisfactory. Board treated all persons with courtesy and fairness, satisfactory. Board adhered to Robert's Rules of Order as necessary and appropriate, satisfactory. Board adhered to its adopted governance style. It emphasized outward vision. It encouraged diversity in viewpoints. It exercised strategic leadership, not administrative detail. It maintained distinction between board and staff roles. It used collective decision-making. It looked to the future. Satisfactory.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you. So before we do have to have an executive
Yes.
session.
Just a second.
So before we do that, there was something that I forgot to ask either Tom or Roy to comment. But Hartford School District has been invited to present its diversity, equity, and inclusion program to the State Board of Education of the state of Vermont
Nice.
at its next meeting. Tom, Roy, and Maggie will be, leading the charge for us. But I felt that it was an incredible opportunity for us, thinking about the work that's been done over the last 4 or 5 years.
May we go and sit in?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get that.
It's virtual.
Yeah, it's gonna be virtual, so,
Okay, we'll get there.
Tom will be sharing all of that
Okay.
data with the rest
As
of
soon
us.
as I get
Tom?
it, yeah,
What?
as soon as I get it, but, what we thought we would do, and Roy can chime in, cause he's been working with Maggie to actually, compile the presentation, but it's basically our timeline, similar to the report we gave to the board, I think it was February of this year.
September.
Yeah, in September, on, EL10, so it updates, but, nevertheless.
Have we not moved enough?
Yeah, maybe. But our timeline, from the creation of the strategic plan to, the multicultural fair and everything in between, hiring Maggie and the different student and adult groups that we have. So,
Cool.
that's our plan. We don't know how much time we have, but Kevin will do an introduction, and then Roy, Maggie, and I will chime in.
Nice.
Should be good.
Nice.
Should be good.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. Pursuant to 1 VSA, section 313,
1B, I move that we find that a executive session is necessary to discuss labor relation agreements with employees, and also move that we enter into said executive session.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to go into executive session, to discuss, labor relations concerns. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So thank you everyone for joining us this evening.
And we can probably let CATV.
Yeah, because we've joined our meeting.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'll just give Sherry the adjournment, and if there's any motion.
You guys are, you good.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Cool, Mike.
Meetings, are not broadcasting, sorry.
We're recording.
Yeah.
What's that?